Right, we're in. Nerd Zone number 2. I still haven't come up with a proper name for it. So, the last video we looked at my current PC and a few quick examples on Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 and just showed what the problem was, which isn't really a problem, it's a first world problem if ever there was one. In this video we're going to start looking at how I start speccing up new builds. This one is going to be quite heavy on screen stuff. One thing I didn't mention in the last video, and something I have already done, is there's a tool called 3D Mark. For those who are not aware, 3D Mark is a computer benchmarking tool where you run it on your PC and it goes, hey, your computer scored this much. Simple as that. So I've already actually run it on this machine before, and the laptop downstairs, which is the one I use for my video editing. This machine scored a score of 3,431. My laptop downstairs scored 3,349, which was kind of disappointing to me that my 5-year-old PC is faster than the gaming laptop that I use like in the lounge to relax and play games on. But there we go. I kind of want to head north of 7,000 with the upgrade for this, and eventually possibly up towards 10,000. That's possibly going to involve a lot of money though. Not a lot of money. Yeah, a lot of money. It's going to involve basically 2 upgrades. One to get the CPU to a certain level, and then the second to get the graphics card to a certain level, and that's when you start doing all the research. And it's quite a complicated subject in a minute, and Nvidia just made it more complicated, which is always good. But anyway, we're going to go over to the PC and I'll start showing you some of the tools and tricks that I use to start speccing out new PC builds, and we'll see what we see. Right, here we are, over at the PC, and you can see the 3D Mark tool that I mentioned earlier. I've got my profile open here, and this is the test I ran on my Intel Core i5 with my 970. I got the score of 3431, which makes my PC better than 17% of all results. I like how it says that and not just in the slowest 20% tested. There's a lot of other stuff about spec here and that, you know, the usual information. Some of this I covered last time. I don't think I mentioned I got 8GB of RAM, but there we go. And yeah, LGA1150 is the processor socket type and all that. Anyway, that's my current PC. What we want to try and do is get ourselves a bit higher up, maybe around this level. This machine, in just for a matter of opinion, is a Ryzen 7 AMD, which is the processor, and AMD Radeon RX 5700 XT is the graphics card that they used to get this score. I mean, I'd really like to push for this level, but this might have to wait a little bit, and I'll explain why in a bit, because Nvidia ruined me plans. I've basically picked the best and worst time ever to build a PC. The best because Nvidia have just released a whole new set of graphics cards that are coming out at the end of the month. The worst because Nvidia have just released a whole new set of graphics cards that are coming out at the end of the month. Anyway, moving on. So, you want a new PC, you've got a few options. First option, go to your local computer store and buy one. You know, Currys maybe, eBuyer. I'd be very careful about Amazon and eBay because they do have a habit, some people have a habit of listing very old technology as a gaming PC, which technically it will play games just fine, but there's no real future proof in there. Those sort of games, those machines are starting to get to the end of their serviceable lives, I think. You know, they're talking like 2nd generation i7s, which are still great processors, but it's also a 2011 processor. But anyway, that's a discussion for another day and probably another channel. What am I'm planning on doing is what I've done pretty much every time I've wanted a big box PC in the last, I would say, 15 years, is I'm going to build my own. And to build your own, you kind of start with a decision, and the decision is, do I want AMD or do I want Intel? 5 years ago when I built this machine, easy answer, you're going to build an Intel because the AMD chips were not very good at all. Shortly after that, AMD decided to do Ryzen and started to claw some ground back, and now pretty much bang for buck wise they seem to be the ones to go for. So as a result, I have decided I'm going to build a Ryzen machine this time, an AMD one. Effectively at this point, if you go and look for recommended £1,000 PC builds, I think most of them are building with this Ryzen chip. You can't just go out and buy a Ryzen chip and any old motherboard, plug it into your PC and add a few bits and bobs and turn it on, Bob's your uncle, because everything has to be compatible, and that's where it gets a little bit more complicated. So what I did last time, possibly even the time before, I started to use a tool which I will go to in a minute, which helps you build. So this is the tool that I use to spec PCs out. It's called PC Part Picker, the UK version being that all the money is in pounds. I've actually got the build here from the last PC that I built, handily placed, with a few changes because I changed some stuff out. What this allows you to do is you can go in there and basically spec a build. So if I go to System Builder here, you'll see that there's already a load of stuff in here, but I'm going to say start a new build. We'll do it live now. That's probably a good way of doing it, isn't it? I'm going to pick a CPU. And then it comes up and goes, here's all the CPUs you can pick, and you can filter out. So we really don't want to be spending £4,800 on a CPU. We're getting down to my price range now. This will tell you things like what cores they have, which is how many individual processors within the processor, because they have more than one now. What the core clock speed is, how fast it runs, what it can boost to, if pushed, how quick can it go, what power it takes, whether it has integrated graphics or not. Intel, for example, all have integrated graphics, which means you don't need a graphics card to get the PC up and running. You do if you want to play any 3D games. SMT, I don't know what that is. Rating is a 5-star rating on a basically based off users' opinions. And price low to high. I've put low here and you can see it comes up with an old Pentium chip, an AMD chip, Celerons. These are the kind of thing you get in very entry-level laptops and PCs. Again, I would never say that they're bad. They're built for a price point. I'm kind of looking to spend a bit more, so I want to push up to here, £132 mark. Actually, could probably go higher than that. And I'm looking at this Ryzen 5 range here. And in here we should see, let's just sort by name, these two here, the 3600 and the 3600X. There's not a lot of price difference between them. We could push to an XT as well if we wanted to. So I'm not sure which one to buy, but what I'm going to say today is I'm going to go with the 3600. There is a slight speed increase with the 3600X. There's also an increase in power. We'll come on to that in a bit, or why that kind of does start to matter sometimes. I think in my case I'll be fine, but we'll add that into our build. The CPU cooler, that is the bit that sits on top of the processor. It's like a big metal heatsink with a fan on top. Air gets blown through the heatsink, keeps the processor from overheating. Now, when I was young and foolish, I once decided to plug a processor in and not put a CPU heat cooler on top of it, an old one that I didn't need anymore, and see what would happen. Turn on the PC and it cooked it within 2 seconds. You just get a nice burning smell, and there you go, the CPU's fried. It was a very, very cheap one, and I had a replacement for it already set up. In this case, the AMD Ryzen 5 comes with a CPU cooler at the box, so I don't actually need to add one. If I wanted to do some overclocking or something a bit fancier, I could buy a third-party one, but I'm not going to. I'm going to choose a motherboard. So we choose our motherboard. The nice thing is now is it's already limited the choice based on my processor. It's gone, hey, you've picked the Ryzen processor. I don't Ryzen. So here's all of the motherboards that are compatible with the Ryzen processor. So in this case, say if I was to choose the first one on the list and add that, compatibility results, no issues or incompatibilities found. So it's saying, you know, everything's compatible here. There is actually a way to trigger a compatibility issue with this combination. I just need to pick the right board. I'm sure that if I probably go, show me the cheap boards, and say, you. Oh, no issues found. Here we go. By adding this board, we get a compatibility warning. These have potential issues or incompatibilities. See details below. Warning, some AMD B450 chipset motherboards may need a BIOS update prior to using Matisse CPUs. Upgrading the BIOS may require a different CPU that is supported by older BIOS revisions. So it does say you might have a problem here. As it happens, this can be an issue, but it's also something you can work with. But to be honest, the way I'm going to work with this is not by not buying a B450 motherboard. I'm going to choose, a lot of this stuff is just from researching online. I'm going to choose a B550 motherboard, but my price is going to be between about 100 ish and 150, and I kind of fancy, let me just see if I can filter out those B450s. There we go. It's just the range. It's a 4 series, a 5th series, and these are older ones, and these are some sort of higher end ones. You start to know them when you do a little bit more research, but for the most part, if you start off with, I'll show you in a minute a nice quick way of doing this, by the way. If you start off with something that people are recommending online, like maybe this 550 will be fine, you don't get the compatibility issue. A quick way of doing this, by the way, if you go to a new tab and open up, it goes, hey, you want to build an entry-level Intel gaming build? How about this one? What about an excellent AMD gaming build? Click this one. And there's the build, and it'll tell you about it, everything about it, and all the parts that you need to build it, and what it'll cost to buy. It aggregates the pricings, goes online, checks the prices, tells you what's cheapest. You can just click buy from Amazon UK if you want, or you can buy all the individual parts yourself. This build, it's not a bad build at all actually. I'm quite impressed. There's probably quite a lot of overlaps between this build and my build, because this is the kind of thing that I used as a basis for my build. I'm not a big fan of ASRock, but that's because I have history with them, so I've kind of avoided that. But yeah, this is a similar sort of build. But yeah, I'm going to continue building my own build because that's where the fun is. Memory. Let's see. I'm going to add DDR3600, but I'm going to add this Corsair Vengeance stuff. I'm picking stuff at random now, to be honest. And this is how you do. You just go through the whole thing. The problem comes when we get to video cards. As I mentioned, Nvidia have thrown a bit of a spanner into my works because I had planned, and I was on the verge of buying this on Sunday night, because I was feeling a little bit fruity. I wanted to spend a bit of money. I was going to get, I'll take the 2070s out there, I was going to get a 2070 Super. 2070 Super is an upgraded version of the 2070. 2070 is the replacement for the 1070. The 1070 is a replacement for the 970, which is what I've got now. There is more to it. The Nvidia did change from GTX to RTX and started doing ray tracing support, which makes fancy lighting in your games. But this was kind of about the level I was going for, and I was going to sort by price low to high and pick something around this range here. Probably this MSI one, because it kind of matches where my build was already at. And hey, I was good with that. That was going to be my thing. Probably a little more than I wanted to pay. So yeah, what Nvidia did was they released, or announced the release of the RTX 3070, 3080 and 3090. The RTX 3070 will be faster than an RTX 2080 Ti. So let's go and have a look for one of those, shall we? I've pressed the wrong button. There's an RTX 2080 Ti. Look at these prices, 4 figures, £1,200, massively above my entire budget for the whole build. The RTX 3070 will be £469 or thereabouts. So you might say, well, okay then, wait a month. So October the 3070 is going to come out. Guaranteed day one there'll be none available, and it'll probably be that case for the next 3 to 4 months. And to be honest, now that I've looked into it a little bit more, watching some vlogs and other chatters, it's overkill for what I need right now. So my thought is to do something a bit silly. My thought is to either look at one of those Radeon cards that we just saw then, I've managed to expand, show the whole thing, or based on a recommendation, to go in at this level. So this is an upgraded card on what I've currently got on my machine. But look at the price. It's 200 quid for the mini one, 214 for this one. That's not bad. So you might say, well, you know, where does that put you on that chart, that 3D Mark chart that you were talking about possibly getting over 10,000 on, or up to 7,000 on, or whatever? So from our build page, if we head back over to the 3D Mark website, we can do an advanced search here. We can type in our processor. That was that one. And we can add a GPU. So if we said that 1660 Super that I just saw, we can do a search. In fact, let's put one GPU because some people will string two together and get higher scores. But yeah, we get the same results. So this is putting us in the 7,000 range, which is the double in my current speed. And I've also been online and had a look at some people playing with this card and this processor with the flight sim game, and they're getting the spec speeds that I want for a £200 card or thereabouts. I am tempted. But maybe I could do the 1660 and get into that 7,000 territory, run that for a year or two, and then upgrade when the market's settled down. And I just don't know what to do. What I've kind of been trying to do is look online at like eBay and Facebook Marketplace to see if anyone is slinging out cards that they don't want anymore that might put me here. Or I could possibly even look at this RTX 2060 Super level, which is a tier below where I'm currently on, but a much more modern card, and would get me at 9,800, which I would be perfectly happy with. The issue I've got is where to pick these cards up at sensible prices, because with that layer of 3070 coming in at £469, the rest of these cards should have gone in price. Well, that has not yet happened. It's starting to happen in the second-hand market, but it's not happening with new cards. Ideally, I'd like to buy a new card. I'd like to have a warranty for in case I blow it up. I'm not adverse to buying a second-hand card, and I've done it in the past, but I kind of want new and shiny. And for the remainder of the machine, the case, power supply, optical drive, operating system, any software, I'll just be using what I've currently got. I would like to add some additional storage, and I'm looking at quite a few here. One of these NVM2E SSDs, which apparently are much faster than what I've currently got, and look quite snazzy as well. Doesn't look like a hard disk, does it? With an SSD added, along with that 1660 Super that I was possibly considering, I then get a price list of my parts. I can choose where I want to buy them from, and I get a total approximate price of the build. I just need to make decisions around that graphics card before we continue any of these videos. Additionally, you get estimated power usage, which is good because our power supply needs to be up for the job. In this case it's a little inaccurate because I do have some additional storage drives and fans to add in here, but the power supply I'm currently playing with has 650 watts, so it should cover me off okay. So there we go, that's a little bit of an oversight into the chaos that is me trying to pick out PC parts and why it's so complicated at the minute, more so than it normally is. I think in the next video we'll hopefully have some parts ordered and we can start to build, but between now and then I've got some decisions to make. Thanks for watching, see you next time.